So a speech disorder is a condition in which a person has problems creating or forming the speech sounds needed to communicate with others. Most commonly, this is in the form of articulation and phonological disorders. Articulation disorders where a child struggles to say certain speech sounds correctly. These speech sounds could be dropped, added, distorted, or substituted. Typically, these are noticed as a child is delayed in reaching their milestones. Your phonological disorders are more predictable, rule-based errors within their speech. So speech disorders sit very close home with me as a special education teacher. On my caseload, I serve multiple students with some kind of speech disorders. I do work at the high school level, so I've never referred a student to speech therapy. They're typically referred before they get to me. However, at the high school level, I work with students who have received speech therapy for typically many years, and most of mine are still in therapy. I've had a couple that has graduated from therapy, which is awesome. But since that is the case, I've seen how it affects everyday life. A couple struggles that I've seen firsthand is a lack of confidence in speaking in front of others. This can be within a classroom setting, in unstructured environments, in structured environments. I've seen how peer friendships are negatively affected, and how many people look down on their intelligence because of the speech disorders. And I've seen that not only from teachers, which is terrible, but also peer-aged. And it's our job as educators to help be their advocates when they're not able to advocate for themselves, especially at such a vulnerable age as high school, where image is everything. I take great pride in being there for my children, help them advocate for themselves. So typically I would explain to someone who is not familiar with speech disorders that these children or young adults typically have a normal IQ as anyone else. However, their way of conveying message verbally may not sound normal, but they have the same thought process and ideas. If you give them another way to communicate these thoughts, you would see. Also, just because someone sounds different, they may not even need any speech assistance. As Cooter states that not all speech sound disorders are necessary to address with intervention, because not all speech issues are negatively affecting the students. We sometimes jump on there as educators because we notice a problem that we think it needs to be addressed, but it really depends on the student and how well they are coping with it. So on a positive note, students with speech disorders, we offer therapy, which is provided by SLP in the school system, that consistently works with them to correct speech habits. We also work with Voc Rehab, and they basically work with the students to ensure that life after high school, they're able to succeed in it. They work in the form of job interviews, college interviews, workplace environments, living on their own, so they work with them on how to live with their disability. On a negative note for students with speech disorder, I've seen where parents and guardians has denied speech services just because they believe their child didn't need it. However, when they're around same age peers within the kind of a school environment, it was negatively affecting them. And my big thing also with schools not being properly funded for speech services. Typically speech therapy is a group setting. The SLPs, I know at my school, has a very large caseload, and they try to see each kid weekly, which can put a lot of strain with time constraints and all that. And also it causes group settings. Typically with speech therapy, you would want very small group to one-on-one, just because every child is different. Every child needs to work on certain skills that some may not need to work on. However, in a group setting, that can cause an issue.